Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'll be sharing part 2 of my testimony, sexual abuse and how I was delivered. So if you have not yet seen part 1, please check in the description for the link and you can watch part 1 and then come back to part 2. Yes, so forgive. Unforgiveness will keep you in a place of bondage, and you do not want to stay in a place of bondage. So free yourself. Free yourself. Walk around a free man, walk around a free woman. It's hard, but God will help you. If He helped me, He can help you. I had another encounter, or I had another incident rather, at age 16 where another person saw it fit to try to take advantage of me because at the time I felt forsaken, right? And a lot of persons knew, like persons in my community knew that I was forsaken. Like the situation was so bad. It's like I had no one, and so this man he had a little money, right? Something like one fee, and so one night he gave me money to buy a box food for both of us, but he did something that triggered my alarm. He touched me the wrong way, and anger started kindling inside of me. It was no time for me to be defensive. I had this one friend who knew what was happening in my life at the time, and share stuff with this friend. So right away I told my friend about what had happened, and I also asked my friend if I should really use this man money to buy food for myself, and my friend said yes. And so I got so upset at my friend, like I was really really raging with anger. Anyway, I went my ways and I bought one food and I carried back to the man and I gave him his change. When he realized that I didn't take any of his money, he started asking questions, like, so what happened? You didn't buy any food for yourself? And so I told him that I didn't want anything. I tell you the truth, I did really hungry at the time, but I had to protect me. When I look back over everything now, I understand why my friend told me to take the food, because as I said earlier, I was forsaken. I didn't have food to eat, and that friend had to share lunch money with me in order for me to go to school and share dinner with me just so I could eat. Many times I had to walk about and cut green bananas and either fry them or boil them, and dumpling and butter was my go-to when I find myself with a little money. The situation was so bad that I started losing weight. I had to make adjustment to my uniform skirt in order to wear it, and I was at school and no one knew what I was going through. I was always a quiet girl at school, so my complete silence wouldn't give them an idea of what was happening. But what was happening at that time, it was very rough. It was very rough for me. I cannot get into all of it right now. I can testify about that particular situation at another time, but it was really a rough one. And any man would see my situation and think that, all right, if I give her money and buy stuff, then I can get to have my way with her, I can get to have sex with her and stuff like that. A couple nights after I carried the money back to him and stuff, I was minding my own business when my phone rang and a number came up that I didn't know. So I answered the phone and it was the same man telling me that he likes me and he wanted to know who I would tell if he told me that he liked me. If alarm go off, mine, my alarm went off. I hung up the phone and I kept my distance after that, and he did the same because I had to protect me. I had no one else to protect me, so I had to protect me. I remember I was at a point where I became numb. I hated men, and I wore a blouse with the words "I hate men" written on the front of it, and no one questioned it because they thought probably it's just a regular blouse. But yeah, I hate them. Made hate men. Men would drive up and stop at my foot and tell me what they wanted to do with me. Men would beg me to go home with them. Men opened their wallets stocked with cash and showed me while begging me to sleep with them. I had the wall up and I decided that I would not allow anyone to tear it down. And at one point I started admiring women and their physiques. Yeah, I admired them just as how a man would admire a woman and say stuff like, "Hey, that kitty they look good, bumper cock up, girl round like English pound and who have hourglass shape," and all of that stuff was happening with me, and I couldn't understand why. And I thought that maybe I could go the other way, but thank God for grace. He had a plan for my life, and I am glad that that's just where that entire thing stopped. I didn't go any further because honestly I don't even want to imagine what life would be like if I had gone down that path. And so time passed by and I left high school. I turned 18 and got baptized, and then I met someone and I thought I was in love. This man told me I was beautiful every chance that he got. He held my hands whenever we go out. He carried my bag, my handbag that is. He carried my handbag. He opened doors for me. He unbuckled and buckled my slippers. He would take off my slippers. He would put them on my feet. He made me breakfast in bed. And when I visited him, he refused to let me even wash the dishes. I struggled with low self-esteem, and I am assuming that he figured it out without me telling him, because he would take me in front of the mirror, stand behind me, and he would pull my hair back, tell me to take a deep breath in and out while looking in the mirror. Then he would tell me to smile. He would tell me that I had the most beautiful smile in the world, and after truth, whenever he did that, I saw how beautiful I was. And the thing is that I always carried a serious face, and he never addressed that. Some persons would be blunt and, like I've had persons say to me, "You can't fix your face is serious, you look like you're dropping a starch," all of that stuff. But he never, approached me that kind of way. He found comfortable ways to get me to smile. And because of that, I felt loved, I felt wanted, I felt like finally someone who truly appreciates me for me and not just wants me for sex had found me. But then I was so wrong. I was a Christian, recently saved, and I got baptized at age 12 and then again at 18. So being a Christian, I knew that sex outside of marriage was wrong and stuff, but I thought that this guy loved me and that he would respect the fact that I am a Christian. I tried on his last name because I thought that our relationship would lead to marriage. Yes, I tried on him last name, and at one point I was writing signature. So when you're married, you have to write the signature and stuff like that. So I was practicing how to write the signature and all of that. But then he demanded sex, and when I refused, he said that he was obligated because I was his girlfriend. He threw tantrums and he threatened me. He held me and he took sex because I was his girlfriend. And each time that happened, I felt like I was reliving what had happened when I was 10 years old. And I cried. And he saw me crying. Did it feel good? Of course not. Did I end the relationship? Of course not. Why? You might be asking, why didn't I end the relationship? He would tell me that he loved me. He, he dried my tears and pulled me in his arms lovingly. He knew just what to say. Like, I don't know, them people were full of lyrics. He knew exactly what to say at the right time. What he was doing or what I had allowed him to do was wrong, but I was so into this guy. My mother and my grandmother loved him. They got along well. Did I tell them what was happening? No, I didn't. I visited him and he visited me, but sex was always by force. At that time, I was a praying person. I prayed about stuff, and I prayed about this particular situation. I prayed and I prayed and I prayed and I kept praying because I knew it was wrong. But this man loved me as no one else did. Well, that's what I thought. And I wanted to feel loved. I knew it was wrong. I kept asking God for answers. And let me tell you something, when you ask God for answers, He will answer you. And so I started having dreams that he was involved with someone else, and I shared the dream with him. Like literally, me go sleep and I would dream about him, seeing him being involved with somebody else or other persons. And I shared the dream with him. And then one day, he called, because I wasn't hearing from him for a while. And so one day he called to say that he would have to end the relationship because he felt as though God was making him uncomfortable. Right? I think he said that he was going through pain and agony for like, I think it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks, somewhere there about, but it was a good while that he was going through he was experiencing some discomfort. And so his exact words were, I go work, me in a pain. I go my bathroom, me in a pain. Like, he was just saying to me that everywhere he went, he was just in pain. He was just uncomfortable. I think he said he was crying. I don't remember. But one of the things that he said that stood out, and I will never forget, is that he said, God said me must leave you alone because me I end you. Was he a Christian? No, he was a backslider. And his mother was a pastor. I locked myself in my room and I cried my eyes out for days when he said that to me. And then I traveled halfway across Jamaica to see him. I told myself that I wanted to see him one last time and maybe we could figure a way out. He told me beautiful things, but he was adamant that things would not work. He also confessed that he was involved with someone else, and he told me that God had already revealed it to me, so it made no sense even trying to move forward with the relationship. I cried and he wiped my tears, and he told me how beautiful I was. He let me know that I deserved better. And I started feeling good, and in the back of my mind I'm saying, yeah, you can't go and say all of that because things are still gonna work out. And then came the threats and force for sex. And so we ended the relationship and we remained friends who just check in once in a while. By this time I had learned how to really stay in God's presence, and so I had repented I fell in love with Jesus, and he and I were becoming closer. I started to grow in God. I started to grow in his words. I promised God that I would never sin like that again. And if any at all I lose my way and sin like that, that he should let it be the person he wanted me to marry. I'm always when I say God now go sin, we go sin. But at the times at the time, that's what I said. Right? Because God will deliver us from temptation. Right? He will always make a way of escape. He is able to keep us from falling. But at the time, that's what I said to God. I was going to a particular church, the church that I got saved at 18, but I was going through some stuff at that church, and one of the things that we must realize, I don't want to stray too much, is that sometimes you're in the church and you're struggling as a young Christian. You're struggling with stuff because, hey, you just get saved and whatever happened, because the enemy will come and he will tempt you, right? So while God will not tempt you, but he will test you, but the devil will tempt you, and once you yield to that temptation, find yourself in sin, and that's an open door. But the thing is that at that time, and even now in some churches, persons go through their struggles, persons have sin issues, and they really want to be delivered. They really want to talk about it. They really want to stop what they're doing, but there's just no one to talk to about it. Because most of the times when you tell someone that you're struggling, they use it against you, right? These persons don't say, all right, you need to go through deliverance process, you need to repent, you need to try to stay away from this, try to stay away from that. Let me be your accountability partner. So each time you feel like committing this sin, call me and let me know, and so that I can help to guide you. It's like there's none of that. And so I didn't have anybody to talk to at the time about this thing. So I had to talk to God about it. So as I was saying before, I repented. I fell in love with Jesus. We got closer. I started to grow in God. I started growing in his word and stuff like that. I changed the church because God aligned me with a man of God, a shepherd who would help me to come up higher. So I was going higher. I started understanding the calling that was on my life. I started to learn God, and after continuously staying in God's presence, the Lord revealed to me that the spirit of sexual abuse was assigned to me and was following me, so I attracted that kind of spirit. Let's call the last man I spoke about Mr. Loverman. Right, this man who I traveled halfway across Jamaica to see. Let's call him Mr. Loverman. Mr. Loverman left a piece of his garment with me, and I remember there were nights when I felt so lonely. So yes, I was praying, I was in God's presence, I was seeking God, but I felt lonely. The relationship ended with this young man, but there were days that I wish he was still there. And I'm being real with you guys, I'm being practical, because it's like when it comes to these things, we push it aside. In this culture, the Jamaican culture, we push things aside and we behave as if we don't have struggles, right? We behave as if everything is all fine, and these are the things that make unsaved stay away. They tell you that they want to put on some things first before them come to Christ, when in fact you cannot stop what you're doing. You cannot prevent yourself from sinning. You have to come to Christ and allow God to begin a work in you. So yes, as I was saying, he left the piece of garment with me, and I would hold that piece of clothes when I miss him and imagine that I was hugging him. Yes, imagine say he was next to me looking sexy in his running pants. He was athletic, so he had a nice figure. I was led to dispose of the garment, and so I just got up one day. I took it out of my drawer and I burnt it. And while I was doing that, I was seeing some stuff, like I cannot remember every single thing right now, but I found myself saying some stuff like, every attachment that we had, I break it off and I burn it. Every ties, I burn it up right now. I burn up negativity. And like I was just burning some stuff, like things were just coming into my mind, and I was just, repeating what I was hearing out loud, and I burned the pants. After doing that, I felt so free. I'm gonna tell you, I feel free because it's like I was not just burning this thing physically, but spiritually, like in the realms of the spirit, something divine was taking place. I was burning stuff, like burning up stuff from my past, burning up stuff that had happened between E and I, the confrontation, everything. I was just burning them as the Holy Spirit led me. Right? So one day a preacher was in the community. He was preaching, and he picked me out from among the other persons, and he started speaking into my life. He told me the work that God has for me to do, and he took his Bible, turned it to Jeremiah, and told me that God wanted me to read that book, and he prayed for me. I went to bed and I dreamed that someone touched my belly and was praying. I got up the morning with a very terrible belly pain. The man belly ache, it terrible, man. And me that feel hold my belly. The way all the pain terrible. I felt like I was gonna pass out. And I went to the bathroom, and what looked like knotted cards, when cards tie up and strings tie up, that was what I passed out in my feces. And that was my deliverance taking place. I remember going into prayer. I had to go into prayer as the Holy Spirit lead me. Right, so the Holy Spirit was leading me to do these things. And I went into prayer, and the Holy Spirit had me dealing with the encounters that I have had. Right, so I asked God to let the Spirit disassociate itself from me, because if it's a spirit of sexual abuse now that had attached itself to me, so I had to ask God to cause those spirits to disassociate itself from me. I had to be in the spirit, chopping off things and praying against stuff, praying against those spirits, praying against the things that happened in my past, And I remember one of my prayer was, God, please let when the men see me, they see Christ. I don't want them to look at me and see me as a sex object. I want when they look at me, they see Christ in me. And God answered my prayers. Right? But I had to cut ties with those individuals in the spirit. I had to divorce all those spirit husbands, all the persons that I had come in contact with, or the persons who had come in contact with me. I had to break ties with those persons. Right? I remember God saying to me that He will not allow anybody to abuse me like that again. And I can say that God has kept His promise, because after that I really don't know how to explain it right now because I am still learning, God. Alright, I'm still learning, I'm still growing. But after that, what happened is that like the Lord put this thing in me, like this spirit where he allows me to sense things. So if I go around someone and they even think about abusing me or approaching me sexually, the Lord would either let me hear it in my spirit or I sense that kind of a spirit. Alright. I remember once I had this friend. A friend came by and I sat beside the friend. Believe it or not, the friend said something in his mind. He said it. And I heard it. And I turned to him and I said, what you say you want to do to me? And him said nothing. And I turned to him and I said, you know, just say you want to do X, Y, and Z with me. And he was shocked. And he said to me, oh, you know that? He said the Holy Spirit. And I think he agreed with me and said, yeah, the Holy Spirit. Because he grew up in a church. He know, how the Holy Spirit work and stuff like that. I remember this other time when I went to a particular place and I went inside and there was this man in there, very professional man. People who were supposed to protect you, And I went in the room where this man was. And while I was in the room, I could sense the spirit. Like there was this sexual spirit attached to that man, like he was a pervert. And I sensed it. And I was there, in my mind, and I was, questioning God, and I was praying against it and all of that. And before I left the room, he started to say some stuff to me. Anyway, I got out the room before him could have even gone no further to put no argument to me. And there was someone in the room when I asked him if that person, is like that. And the person said, yes, he loves little girls. He likes to trouble little girls. I was like, my God. Yes, that kind of a thing. And persons out there who might have been molested or stuff like that on more than one occasion, they would come around and the Lord would like show me like this is their pain, this is what they're going through. This person needs deliverance. It's like I can sense, and then the Lord would reveal to me what ages thing happen, what they're going through, the abuse and how they're hurting. And it's like I would literally feel the hurt, literally feel the pain that the person is going through at the moment, right? So as I said before, I'm still learning, God, and there are times when I really have to ask God, how do I go about this? Help me to deal with this situation, because I can't deal with it by my own. I'm just a vessel. But I am so grateful that God would use my experience to help others to be delivered. Alright, so back to this testimony. After God delivered me, remember now I burned the garment and I passed out the nuts and all of that. God delivered me. And but they all up in God's presence. I enjoy me and God. I love God, and I say, boy, all along me I look around and I search for love, because man I carry my bag and I open door and I tell me sweet stuff. And I was like, boy, wish me did get saved a little earlier. And it's like I could feel God just wrapping his arms around me at night, hold me up tight. I feel so loved, like nothing in the world no nice. So I am married now, I'm gonna tell you, not even my husband can love me like how God love me. Like that love that I felt from God, it's like I just cannot express it. I cannot explain it. It's something that you'd have to experience for yourself. Alright, so God deliver me. Mr. Loverman called me to say that he was coming by my house. No, I had not seen this man in months. And all of a sudden he was coming by. I thought he was joking. So I didn't even take him seriously. So it was a night when I had church.